My boss at the time did not like the fact that I was moonlighting, if you will, in a different part of the organization, and he basically threatened my job.
I genuinely believe people follow who they can trust, and what creates a trustworthy leader. The more authentic you are, the better.
Not only was I really shocked to be given this advice by fellow women who were strong, capable women, like it's not a slam on them. It was like, that's just not me. That's not me.
If you're ready to stop wasting time on fluff and instead learn how to build unstoppable teams, future-proof your career, and lead with clarity under pressure, then you, my friends, are in the right place. Let's dive in.
The Infinite Leaders Podcast. Today's guest is Rebecca Sternberg Marttila, a managing director at Accenture with over 3 decades of experience transforming clean energy, healthcare, and public systems. She's known for leading high-stakes projects in environments where the complexity is enormous and the stakes could not be higher. But Rebecca is not just a powerhouse consultant. She's also candid about what it means to be a working mom in demanding roles, the importance of personal community, and how values and resilience have shaped her career. In this conversation, we're going to explore the courage that it takes to speak truth in rooms full of yes men, the human side of navigating fear-driven cultures, and how to build resilience when the pace of change never lets up. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You really speak about the importance of showing courage in environments where everyone tends to agree. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your experience in working in these really challenging environments and, what gives you the courage to speak up and speak your truth and to help do what's best for everyone involved.
I'll tell one story that kind of shaped my career. I was lucky enough, I would say sort of early to mid-career, to have the opportunity to meet with somebody who was very senior at the company I was with at the time. He mentioned that he was interested in sustainability, and maybe you just want to talk to him. Again, number of levels above me. So I did pitch to him this idea that we should be in the business of environmental sustainability. But in any case, it was pretty early stage, so it was a little bit of a risk, and he gave me 20 minutes on his calendar. It took me about a month and some fortitude to get the meeting, and I put together this horrible presentation. It was like 40 minutes of pictures of like crying babies and dead whales. Not a business executive presentation. Luckily, he read it before we got on the call, and he said, wouldn't have gotten through this content anyway, but I am interested in the idea, and I do think there's business value for us. So what do you need to get the practice started? Which I was not prepared for at all. And so I kind of winged it, and I just threw out a number for us to do a feasibility study, and he funded me to start this practice. And I very much didn't feel ready to do this. I would say probably 6 months into it, I was still doing a fair amount of nights and weekends work on top of my day job. And my boss at the time did not like the fact that I was moonlighting, if you will, in a different part of the organization. And he basically threatened my job. He said, sustainability is a fad. You're wasting your time. You need to be focusing all of your time on this work. He basically said, you're going to have another conversation about whether or not you belong here at the firm. So obviously that was quite scary at the time. And so I happened to have a status call with the person who ran global strategy at the time. I mentioned to him that these words were said to me, and I wasn't really sure how to handle it. And he didn't really give me a response at the time. He basically just said, I appreciate you sharing. Let me get back to you in 3 weeks. Came back 3 weeks later and essentially kind of formally launched my career in what was at the time sustainability focused consulting. It was definitely a scary moment when you have your direct boss telling you one thing, in this case also directly threatening your job if you don't listen to him. I knew that this was the right thing to do, not only because I had a more senior person supporting me, but because I knew enough about the topic area that this was the right thing, not only for me and my career, but for the firm. And so I kind of went with my gut, I took a risk, and it worked out for me. Doesn't always, but it did in this case.
I really admire your dedication and commitment to stay true to your values. even when that meant putting in all that extra time and effort on nights and weekends and genuinely creating something that was not just right for you or your firm, but also for the planet. Could you give us some examples of what types of results that you've seen?
I was in healthcare for a little bit over a decade. Then I was in sustainability for about 10 years, like strategy and consulting. And then I was in renewable energy for about another 10 years. And now I think I'm sort of on my fourth and hopefully final career. I'd like to retire at some point. I decided that at this moment in my career, I was going to step into something else. And in this case, it was back into healthcare where I started my career. And I still feel good about the kinds of things I'm able to do. I still am very mission driven in what I do on a daily basis. And I haven't given up on focusing on achieving sustainable outcomes in my life. I do a fair amount of volunteer work. Was on one board and now on another board related to decarbonization and clean. So in that realm of my life where I started that practice, we were able to serve a number of clients. I grew the practice threefold when I switched into renewable energy, which is obviously sustainability related. I did so because I really wanted to see sort of the direct impact of my work tangibly. Consulting is very intellectually rewarding in a lot of ways. You learn a lot very quickly, but it doesn't allow you in many cases to literally point to the thing that you built, which renewable energy really did. And so while I did consult to a number of clients, I helped Microsoft achieve or set their initial sustainability goals. I helped Waste Management set their initial sustainability goals and worked with a number of other clients in kind of organizing for and setting goals and then putting in structures to execute against them. I would say my most rewarding and the part of my career was really in renewable energy. Myself and my teams that supported me delivered over 1 gigawatt of renewable energy over, a decade, which as a personal contribution feels really good. And some of that was in distributed small scale systems on commercial roofs. There are a number of retail entities that we delivered 1 megawatt to 3 megawatt systems and storage, which again, a person can directly point to the carbon reduction impact that has. That's very satisfying to me.
I can imagine that as you have kind of branched out into what was probably innovative spaces at the time that you initially engaged with this, that not everybody was on board with what you were doing and what you were suggesting, right? So for our listeners, what advice might you have? How can leaders model truth telling or model doing the right thing and engaging in the right initiatives without necessarily being seen as disruptive or maybe not even focusing what the rest of the organization might think would be the right things or the most profitable things?
That's a great question. I think, the first story I told is definitely an example of that, but I'll give you a couple of others. I think it's important for you, the listener, to really think about what values you hold and what matters to you in your life and your career. One of the pieces of feedback that I was given relatively early and as I rose in the management ranks of my career was that I sort of separated my personal values and my passion and even my personal life from work, which is necessary, I think, particularly for a lot of women, because, you want to come across as strong and focused on, your job. And I feel very strongly about the things that are values to me, much of which is at this point very much on my sleeve and oriented towards how do you be a good mom first, or how do you be a good wife first, or how do you be good to yourself before you're good to your job, whatever those things are. So accepting what that looks like from other people and being able to recognize it as actually how they bring their best self to the workplace. That just wasn't a maturity that I had, I would say, earlier in my career. And so I tended to be much more rigid, much more sort of project manager focused. And I still have some of those characteristics that I work on and I recognize. So it's really a balance, but it's something I think I feel I've gotten better at, and being able to just be vulnerable myself and also allow others to be vulnerable and work with them to bring their full selves into the workplace so that they can also, live their life. Because work is, it's like the old like cliche. You're never gonna write on your gravestone that, you wish you'd work more hours or whatever. So, we really have to, as leaders, be able to not only share our own values, our own emotions, our own vulnerabilities, but really be open and okay with others bringing that into the workplace as well. And that's something that took me a long time to get to.
Are you the leader that your company cannot afford to lose? Or are you the one that they quietly replace during the next reorg? AI, layoffs, and shrinking budgets don't just take down low performers. Even top leaders get cut if they're not seen as indispensable. And that is why I created the Executive Edge Audit, a fast, powerful diagnostic for high performers like you that will give you your irreplaceability index, showing you where you stand and what's at risk so that you can prove your value before someone questions it. You'll also receive an executive risk report that allows you to pinpoint blind spots, strengths, and vulnerabilities so you can close gaps before they cost you a promotion. And finally, you'll receive a 6-month performance accelerator plan, complete with a boss-ready case for why your org should approve budget for your continued growth. So don't wait. Head on over to infiniteleaders.vip right now.
Bringing your full self to work, or at least not cutting yourself off from that because you're so dedicated to the job that you don't allow time and space for that in your life. And you've been a working mom, and I'm sure have had to overcome many challenges associated with that. What would you say to our family-oriented listeners? And I don't want to say just women, because men should also be included in this too, as fathers, right? So what advice do you have for working parents who have to deal with the struggles of balancing both, trying to have a thriving career, but also having a thriving family?
I would say two things. I think there's a story that I will share about myself during the pandemic, which was a really hard time for many of us, and particularly for parents. So I'll share that story, but I also just want to mention as an aside that I'm reading a book right now that's really wonderful for me as a parent, and I haven't gotten to the part about parents and how this relates to parents, but it's called Slow Productivity. It's by Cal Newport, and the idea is to do fewer things. And I think particularly those of us that are, for lack of a better cliche, like type A personalities that want to do all the things, it's really hard, not only just to say no, but to say no in a way that doesn't feel like you're slacking to other people, and to really be able to focus on think time and being able to produce great work, but also being able to focus in general and achieve better results, I think really does come from doing fewer things. So one of the things that happened during the pandemic, again, for anybody that was a parent of young to, frankly, even high school age children, was everybody was here and everybody was remote. And so your 9 to 5 day with a mental break at the beginning and the end when you were commuting was all of a sudden like a 7 to 10 p.m. day. And you had kids in the background and multiple spouses maybe trying to work. I happened to be a single mom at the time. It was a really, really difficult time. So the story I wanted to share, I was an executive, I reported to the CEO, and my day, as I mentioned, just kind of crept into the evenings, and I was the only person here to make my kids dinner, and they'd been home all day, and their mental health was not great because nobody was during this time. And the person I was working for, the CEO, just didn't seem to understand that. And the feedback that I was getting was, even though I had met all my goals that I was or exceeded all the goals that I was hired to deliver, even in a tumultuous time like the pandemic where the market was really up and down, was, when I ask you to do something, just say yes. When we need to have a meeting and it goes 3 hours, I need you to be available. Ultimately, I ended up getting demoted at this company effectively. And I was counseled by a few of my female coworkers who were like, hey, you're a mom, you've got a lot on your plate. You were just put under somebody else who happened to also be, a male with a stay-at-home spouse, slightly older kids and all of that. And, why don't you just ride it out, play them, do the mommy track. Not only was I really shocked to be given this advice by fellow women who were strong, capable women, like it's not a slam on them. That's just not me. That's not me. I have to acknowledge my values and the things that are important to me, being able to do things that I know I can do, to be able to have impact, to be able to point to that impact, not just sit back and fly under the radar. That's important to me. I ended up quitting without another job, which is, I don't know what the moral of the story is. And I ended up getting one that was great. I actually ended up coming back to Accenture, and I was happy with that decision. But it was definitely a risk. And I think the advice is be prepared, but also don't be afraid to follow what your gut is telling. And maybe at the time it's like, I don't see any alternatives for myself. This is what my path was supposed to be. When I had taken this job right before the pandemic, I was like, this is my dream job. And then it turned out not to be. And then, I made this decision, which felt risky at the time, but I found that, again, a weight was lifted off. Once you, if you're able to live true to your values, you've done your homework, you're not making a hasty decision, it always works out.
And what I hear inside of all of that is like you staying true to you and what was important to you. And you knew that your family needed you more and you needed yourself more, and that you were really craving and needed something that was going to be more in alignment with your values and maybe even more interesting work. And what you once thought that job was going to be did not end up being that. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just the way that it rolls, right? It's like we think one thing is going to happen, doesn't necessarily play out that way. But to still have this commitment to yourself, your commitment to those that you care about, and also really trusting that what you do desire will eventually work out, and to always have a backup plan.
Right. Yeah. And I would add to that, again, it's not about other people are wrong, I'm right. It's about what this leader that I work for now needed. And this has happened a few different times. It's just not in alignment with what I need. The person you work for, the people you work most closely with, are the most important part of your job satisfaction. I have almost never found that it's the work itself, at least for me personally, that really matters. It's really the people that you work for in particular and that you work with, or particularly the people you work for, just to be very direct. You're either simpatico or you're not. And if you're not, it doesn't matter if you're doing the most interesting job in the world, it's going to be frustrating every day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, organizations are built on people.
Yes.
At least still today, at this moment in time, our organizations are run by people. So
yes.
How do we care for ourselves and the people that we work with on a regular basis? Having worked in consulting myself, and in this, you do a lot of change management work, which I have also have experience doing. These transformation projects, I know, can take a huge toll on everyone involved. And so I'm curious from your perspective, like, what advice might you have for leaders and folks who are in the weeds, in the day-to-day of this type of work, who might feel like they're losing themselves in the grind of this really big transformation work? Like, what advice do you have for people who are doing this work day in, day out and really trying to make a difference, but sometimes not even feeling like they can keep their own head above water?
Yeah, that is a really, again, great question. I mean, from a formal transformation project perspective, these are years-long efforts. With consulting, you don't always get to see the end result. And so that same is true in a large transformation project. Either it's a long game in both cases. And so your question was, how do you stay true to yourself? How do you not lose yourself? Again, I'll come back to just knowing your values, knowing your personal mission. And again, I apologize for saying that because it's so cliche. And so many people talk about, well, put your mission statement together. And frankly, mine has changed a bunch of times in my career and in my life. And I'm kind of constantly like reframing it. But if I actually step back and think about what is most important to me, what do I want to achieve in my life, it really does come down to the same things. It always comes down to either making the world a better place for my kids, helping my kids become resilient in the future, and helping humans live and, have a brighter future. I mean, they're all kind of the same sort of theme, and it often relates to my kids very directly as well. One of the things I've been really interested in exploring lately is how we can use AI in mental health care. Whatever that mission or thing that I'm exploring may be, this is one of the things that I'm getting from this book right now, is you can, if you have 10 minutes, even 20 to 30 is better, just sit down and write down all the stuff, all the projects you're working on, whether volunteer, personal, professional, and then put them next to, at least as of today, what you think your values and mission are, and see if they relate. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe of the 10 to 20 things you're working on right now, maybe half of them don't contribute to your mission. Maybe you can skinny down your life a little bit and make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think we do live in a world where it's just so easy to say yes to everything. And especially if you are, as you said before, a type A personality, which I relate to as well myself, is it's so easy to say, yes, I want to contribute there. Yes, I want to give back there. Cool, let's make an impact. Let's generate some results. Let's get some things going. But to be much more discerning about what we say yes to, and does that align back to the values? Does that align back to the people that you really care about? And does that still give you enough time and space and energy to care for yourself and care for the people that really do matter for you? What I also heard from you is that when the work is bigger than one person, when you're really involved in these like massive transformation projects and you can't really see the results that are coming ahead, or maybe the project is just so big you would never be able to see all of the impacts that it would create, is that constantly coming back to, what does fuel you? And I hear you really being a relationship person and like a system of relationships, and finding like what keeps you ticking, but also maybe what keeps others around you ticking, to kind of have that built-in community effect that can keep you going.
Yeah, when you're following a project, especially again, a large transformation project, whether that be formal sort of contract for transformation with a client, it's important to just make sure that you're anchoring to the thing that matters to you. And in that case, it was improving the experience of the average member of a health insurance company, because that's actually why I went into health insurance in the first place. So anchoring back to that, and also making sure, to your point about community, which is very important to me, that you're surrounding yourself with people who, if they don't share your personal mission, that's okay, but at least they respect and honor your passion and your contribution to that mission. I had somebody say to me the other day, wow, you're really passionate about that. What do you do? Like, how are you applying that to the work that we're doing? Which was like, oh, well, of course I do. But then I thought about it and I'm like, well, am I really applying that passion? I mean, I have all these ideas. What am I actually doing to put them into action? And so being able to be in a community of different kinds of thinkers, different kinds of people, really helps me turn my lots of ideas into action that can produce results and ultimately help me achieve my mission.
That's so great. That's so great. Well, you have risen in the ranks of the organizations that you've been a part of. What would you say are some of the most defining moments that helped shape the leader that you are today?
One particular leader that I had who said, again, I notice you have passion for this, and you seem to be separating it from the way that you're managing your teams. And I see you being kind of, hard-nosed about the project and kind of heads down, and we have to do this, this, and this. I had a therapist once call, this part of my personality, like my inner lawyer. Like, I can be very, logical, very directed, very argumentative is not quite the right word, but it's like very analytical. And this leader of mine said to me, like, I know you're passionate about these things. I'd love to see you be able to take a step back and incorporate that and bring a little bit, but bring a little bit more of that emotion and that passion into the way that you lead. I didn't even really know what he meant at the time, but I see it now. So I think being able to process feedback like that, like it's okay. It's okay to bring who you are and the things that matter to you to whatever it is you do in the world. Because every one of us has that. I'll use the analogy of like LinkedIn versus Facebook. Like we're supposed to keep all of our professional selves on LinkedIn and we're supposed to keep our personal selves on Facebook. And those are blended a little bit. I'm not a believer that you should put your, throw all your political beliefs on LinkedIn. I'm not suggesting you go all out there and mix the two. But I do think that it's not only okay, but actually demonstrates leadership to say, here's a time I really screwed up. Here's a time I really stumbled. Here's where I was really struggling. And here's how I got through it. And that helps other people know that it's okay to do that. Everybody has ups and downs. Nobody is successful all the time. Nobody is like buttoned up and perfect all the time. Nobody is like that. And so it's okay to admit that you're not like that because it allows other people to be themselves as well. I think that's how you build loyalty across people and teams.
Yeah, I genuinely believe people follow who they can trust, and what creates a trustworthy leader. Generally, the more authentic you are, the better, and of course you have to practice discernment with what you'll be authentic about. But I think people really need to know. They want to know that, not every leader is not every person is perfect. And the more that we can be real people, I think the easier it is to get real work done together.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. We are all experiencing life outside of work. We are all experiencing what's happening on the news. We are all people. Again, we're full people with full lives and emotions and vulnerabilities. And sometimes I can fake it, and most people can fake it, but you're not going to get the best work out of me, and I'm not going to get the best work out of you if during our whole conversation about how we, bring up agentic AI to this particular client, I'm thinking about the fact that my kid went to school crying today.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting we can start every meeting with, tell me how you got your kid off to school today, but I think certainly if there are collective events or you're observant and enough of a good listener to notice that somebody's off.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me think of that Gallup study. It came out a number of years ago about employee retention. And the top two factors for employee retention are, one, does my manager care about me as a person? And two, do I have a best friend at work?
Yeah.
And, they've even said like, people will be willing to work for less money as long as they're part of an organization and a team that genuinely cares about them as a person. And so, starting a meeting like the way that you did, even though maybe we don't have time to do that for every meeting or whatnot, or maybe it's in the, hallway talk in between meetings or whatnot, but like knowing that, yeah, we're all real people and we have real challenges outside of work, being able to address that, I think can help, or just acknowledging it can help us all be more present in the moment to do the work that we're here to get paid to do.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Now, you brought up AI a minute ago there. In this crazy evolving world of AI, what do you think will matter the most in the world of work, in our leadership qualities, and ensuring that we can all future-proof our careers and make sure that we remain relevant? What do you think will matter the most over the next decade?
Yeah, that is a great question. I use AI more than once a day. I use it constantly in my work, in addition to that being one of the key things that I sell and deliver to clients. I think that what's really going to matter are relationships, because computers don't have emotion. They can't read your body language, at least not yet. They can't build relationships, at least not yet. And even if they can go through the motions, ultimately, of building relationships, having friendships. I mentioned mental health and AI, which is a very specific topic, like what could AI do for mental health versus, human mental health support. But I do think that computers will never be humans, and computers will always rely on humans to do human things. There's some emerging studies that say that actually constant use of AI reduces your own ability to think and process.
Mhm.
It's important that you retain that. It's important that you grow your brain, like literally and figuratively. So, building relationships, critical thinking, just human interaction and physical work. Like, not all of us are going to go physically build a building, but gosh, if we're in an industry where we are building a building, that's a little bit more foolproof, in my opinion, than being a knowledge worker, which is what most of us do these days. So if you are a knowledge worker, think about how you can leverage your creative skills, because all that AI can do from a creativity perspective is copy what everybody else did. And so how can you bring something unique where you're putting ideas together that maybe wouldn't be logical? And most importantly is just learning how to interact with other humans and build relationships. I know it's cliche, and so it's hard to actually put like a specific stamp on that, but that is, I think, the most important skill that we can all carry into this new world that we're entering.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I do believe that AI will transform and is transforming how we work today, but it cannot replace humanity. And I really believe that the future belongs to those who know how to master both AI and understanding how to use AI, but we also still really need that emotional intelligence and having that unique and inherent understanding of everything we've already talked about before, of how to connect with people and make sure that people really feel like they matter. And I think that's going to become more and more and more important as we continue to carry forward in the future.
100%. And not for nothing, talking to a person doesn't burn any carbon emissions.
That's true.
So there's that.
So true. That's so true. Well, Rebecca, how can everyone find out about you?
I am on LinkedIn as Rebecca Marttila, Rebecca Sternberg Marttila. That's probably the best way to find me. And all my contact information is all available there.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show
you.
today. It's been a pleasure connecting with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for another game-changing episode of the Infinite Leaders podcast. Remember, leadership is not about slogans and one-off events. It's about strategic operating systems, sustainable rhythms, and real results. If today's conversation gave you a spark, do not let it fade. Whether you're navigating change, breaking through organizational roadblocks, or building high-performing teams, take the next step with the Infinite Edge Audit, a low-investment, corporate card-friendly plan to future-proof your career and fast-track your next professional move. Need support for your team? Well, we do that too. We empower leadership development that delivers measurable results, team alignment that breaks down silos, and organizational results that actually stick. So head on over to infiniteleaders.vip right now. That's infiniteleaders.vip.